All right, welcome to the very first episode of the Cancers podcast. This is a place where people who are going through hard things, it doesn't just have to be cancer, can come and listen to people who've been around cancer and have been through very difficult times in life, a place for inspirations, lessons, and insights to those who have been exposed to cancer. And I'm here with a longtime friend and someone who I consider family, Sam family. We'll get into that later. Dalton Causey. Dalton, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Sean. How are you?
So, Dalton, we'll just get right into it.
For
And
sure.
for people who don't know you, could you please tell your cancer story?
Yeah, for sure. So, um, on Christmas Day, um, Christmas Day in 2005, I woke up, went to open presents, like I'm sure everyone else did, and my parents noticed that my face was very like swelled up. My left jaw uh, had was inflamed, and they didn't really know what to do. So we went to the emergency room, and I was there for like all day, and I opened presents there. And they didn't the people at the emergency room, they didn't really know what was going on either, and they were like, "You should probably take him to Children's." So I was helicoptered to Children's Hospital in Birmingham, Alabama, and then I think by early January, I had been diagnosed with Burkitt's lymphoma, stage 4, and yeah, and that's the basis of it, I guess. And then 2 years later, I was in remission, and now I'm here. So that's it's pretty much my cancer story. I feel like, obviously the beginning of it, I feel like, our cancer stories are kind of like our whole lives because it does, it takes over kind of. You can let it take over more or less, but um, it's always going to be there. So I feel like my cancer story is still going on. Um, but yeah, and I met a lot of people there at Children's Hospital that I still know to this day. A lot of nurses and doctors, and it is very scary going back there, but it is also like going home in a sense, in a really like weird, scary sense of going home, I guess. Um, but yeah, and then in the third grade, which was 2008, I started going to Camp Smile Mile, which is a camp for children with cancer in Alabama, and that's where I met Sean Fradella. Um, yeah,
Yeah, man, Camp Smile Mile is a place in Lake Martin, Alabama. It's a beautiful place where kids with cancer, and they've also got sibling camps, other things of that nature, family camps can come together and really bond over something that's incredibly difficult. And I remember some of our beautiful moments, just everything from a Friday night dance party to before the talent show when
yeah,
we do a memorial. And I feel like, I don't know if you felt this way, but I kind of remember going to my first memorials as a kid. You don't really understand going through cancer. You don't really get what's going on. And at this camp, we do a memorial for children who weren't as lucky as we were, who passed away. And it's beautiful. It's on a beach. They play music, we pray, and we light candles for all these kids. And felt like that was one of the first moments that, at least I remembered, wow, this is real. I'm not a normal kid at all.
yeah. I definitely could feel that. Definitely the first few years of it. Obviously, like we were so young, but yeah, I definitely didn't really get what was going on in those kind of serious moments. But I gradually understood that like what I'd been through was something that a lot of other kids don't go through and will never have to go through, which is great. Like I, I took a lot of, I don't want to say like pride, but like I felt very comfortable being like one of the only kids that I knew that had to go through that. I felt, when I was like in kindergarten or first grade or third, like after those camp years, those first few, I kind of realized like I had been through something really bad. And, if anyone was going to go through it, I was just glad that it was me. And maybe that's like the older brother in me kind of, but I definitely felt that. And I don't know, even if my senior year, I realized how serious it was. And I remember my first year as a counselor at camp, just like breaking down at the candle lighting ceremony, and like someone had to come and get my camper for me and like take them to the talent show because I just like was a wreck. But it is a really special place, and I'm really sad I can't be there this year, but hopefully I'll get to go back next year and be with them.
Yeah. So I think also there's like that transition period of going from cancer to being an adult. Sort of how do you balance letting go between understanding what you've been through and trying to grasp things in the world? It is really not an easy thing mentally to go
Yeah.
through. I could see that as being a counselor. I went through the same thing, or even as getting older, when you go to camp and you're a survivor, and then you've got friends who are going through cancer, and pre-social media sort of was kind of when social media was starting to merge, so we weren't all connected all the time, and you'd go to camp and you'd be with a friend and you were good friends with them, and then the next year you go to camp and you heard their name on
Yeah.
that list, and it's like probably one of the most gut-wrenching. I mean, I'm starting to tear up right now, but I just remember sitting on the beach and you hear like, oh, this person's not at camp. You don't really know what happened to them. And then you hear their name, and
Yeah.
it's just like a brick wall hits you, and it's so difficult.
Yeah.
Um, it's something that's definitely not normal per se for a kid to go through, at least.
Yeah, definitely. I think my mom was like, and she still is, like chronically, like on Facebook all the time. And she's very connected to other moms who have, children with cancer in the hospital or, out of treatment, in treatment. She's very connected. And so there were several times where, like, one morning before school, she would like sit me down and just say, like, I want you to know that, this person passed away this morning or, last night. And, it was always like, and then I would go to school and act like nothing had happened. And it's just, it's really hard because, obviously any of us could be gone at any moment from anything. But whenever you hear like this person that that, had something like you have is not here anymore, it begins to feel like a ticking clock, even though it's not. It's not a ticking clock, but it begins to feel that way. And like, there are days when I'm more scared than others that something's going to happen. But yeah, definitely at camp, whenever everything is it is so fun. Like it was the most fun that I had every year. It was that thing that I was looking forward to every single year. But it can all come crashing down in a second at that candle lighting ceremony. Yeah, yeah.
By crashing down, are you speaking about fear of relapse?
Yeah, fear of relapse and you know, someone passing away, a friend or even a friend's friend, and like seeing, like at camp in the early years at least, like we weren't very connected. The boys weren't very connected to the girls, and like it was almost like boys versus girls for everything. And like we were, picking on each other, making fun of each other, telling each other we had cooties, all that kind of stuff. But like, I remember like several times, like as soon as we would get to camp, there would always be like a group of girls together talking about someone that had passed away within the last year and being like very, very open about it to each other. Like it would be the first day. Like this was several times where I saw like girls either like at dinner, like kind of hugging each other and like talking to each other about someone that maybe passed away. And like, it was just very, looking back, like they were so open about it, and allowed themselves to feel those feelings kind of more like on the first day. Whereas I feel like when I went to camp, I really didn't try to think about it until Thursday, you know? But yeah. And that's what I mean by the sense of like crashing down, I guess.
Yeah, I've never really thought about that, the difference between how the boys are and the girls are. Maybe the girls are more connected throughout the year, and the boys are kind of just like, oh, it's camp time, I'm gonna get
Right.
ready, see my friends. It's more laid back. You're not thinking all the time. That is a very unique perspective. So, post cancer, what have you been up to?
Post cancer, so for the last, like 15, 16, 17 years, I went to elementary school, high school at Ayrton High School in Ayrton, Alabama. And then in my sixth grade, I got into theater and started doing theater. The first show that I did was To Kill a Mockingbird at Troy University. And I didn't really know what I was doing. And my friends just kind of said, like, you're funny, you could be on stage and, play characters and stuff. And so I went to this audition and I just did a bunch of like voices for them, and like Looney Tunes voices, Mickey Mouse voices, like, cartoon characters and things like that. And just kind of joked around, and, which is not the tone of To Kill a Mockingbird at all, but I guess they saw something in me. And they took me on, and I played Jim, which is the main character, Scout's older brother. And after that, Troy University hosts a like theater intensive during the summer, and I think it was back to back with camp. So I think Camp Smile Mile was like 1 weekend of June, or 1 week of June, and then the next week would be the theater intensive at Troy. And that's where I met a lot of my friends at Spark Theater Company in Dothan, Alabama. And that fall, I started doing shows at Spark Theater Company. Spark was kind of like an after-school program, theater program for kids to prepare for a college career in theater, whether it be on stage or off stage, in the tech booth or what have you. And I really wanted to do it all. I was on stage, I was off stage. I wanted to design sets. I wanted to direct. I wanted to do everything. And we did a show called The Theory of Relativity. It's not really a well-known show. And we took it around the state. We toured it, and it went to Tuscaloosa, and someone saw it at Tuscaloosa, and I got a full ride scholarship to the University of Alabama. So I went there and I majored in theater. I got a BFA in theater with a concentration in acting. And then COVID-19 hit the March, April. I don't remember if it was March or April.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, something like that area. I know that it was the week before spring break. So the week before spring break, we were sent home, and they said, you're not going to come back in 2 weeks, when you normally would for spring break, but like, you're going to come back. And we didn't go back. So, which that was also, I feel like, a very scary time for me. And I'm sure a lot of other like cancer survivors or people around cancer, people that know people with cancer, because I thought, if this gets to me, like it could wreck me. Like it could do some very, very bad things.
Immune deficiencies because of chemo, radiation, whatsoever, where people who have cancer, where our immune systems aren't as good as most, I guess, normal people.
Normies, yeah. So I was very scared the whole time, and it was like a very rough time for me mentally. And I thankfully never got it. And if I did, I didn't notice because if I felt sick, I tested. I I was around someone that had it, I tested, and I just have never had it. Knock on wood. But yeah, and during that time, I started writing plays because that's really all that we could do. Because it was either that or like do a play on Zoom, which is not the same thing as performing it live for people and like feeling them. But I was writing a lot of plays, and once the quarantine was over at school, I began like putting them up and directing them or being in them and having someone else direct it. And then I kind of became the guy that wrote plays at school, and I got commissioned by 2 professional theaters to write plays for them. And yeah, and then after my senior year, I worked for the Wisconsin Shakespeare Festival for a while, and I had a lot of downtime, so I was watching a lot of movies, and just kind of like I was watching everything because I was in the ensemble, so I didn't really have to go to rehearsals a lot of the time. I had a lot of downtime, and I was watching all these movies and thinking like maybe I want to make movies or do something like that, and but I wasn't really sure. And so then after that, I went home and I worked for Spark Theater Company, and I was the assistant artistic director for the fall season of 2023, and I was directing and whatnot. And then the next in January, February, March, I was working at the Rev Theater Company in Auburn, New York. And while I was there, I was kind of realizing like I do want to make movies. Like I do want to move to Los Angeles. I love New York, but like I need to be over there if I'm going to do that, So I saved up a lot of money with my partner, my girlfriend, Mary Claire, and in the beginning of September of last year, we moved out here to Los Angeles. And I've just been kind of working and doing what I can. So.
And you have a project coming up called Eric's Last Drop. So could you touch on that?
Yeah. So Eric's Last Drop is a short film, and a short film is like a film, but it's a lot shorter. So they can run anywhere from a minute long to 40 minutes, and basically these do really well at like festivals. They go to film festivals like Sundance or South by Southwest, and you take them, I guess, and it's a good way of showing off like what you can do, whether that's like in writing or directing or acting. And it's a really good way to kind of break into things and to meet people and network. There's a lot on YouTube. My other 2 short films are on YouTube. But yeah, so I made this short film. I wrote it with my partner. I directed it, and I play Eric. And I didn't really want to play Eric, but it was, it's about cancer. And so I thought I should be the one to do this. I don't really, there are a lot of moments where he doesn't really say anything. And I just kind of felt like I'm the only one that can kind of grasp what those moments are in that silence and what he's thinking. So I decided to play Eric. And the gist of the story is that Eric, like me, until he is 20, after he turns 25, his chances of his cancer coming back go from 50% to 25%. So that's a statistic that's been like looming over my head all of my life of like, I just got to make it to 25 years old. And then like, I'm in the clear.
And that's a real statistic?
That's a real statistic that I've been told at least for the past like 10 years. Anyway, so Eric in the short, the night before his 25th birthday, he hears back that his cancer has come back. So he was, this close to getting there. And he invites his friends over for like drinks, and they have a good time and a good night, and something is clearly off about him, but no one's really saying anything. And then he has to go away for a few times, like to go to the bathroom because he gets sick, and he comes back, and there are several times where he kind of lashes out in anger, like out of nowhere, and like just kind of has these like huge mood swings. And then by the end, he passes out. And when he wakes up, he tells his friends, like, my cancer's come back. And he didn't want to tell them because he just wanted like a few more days of normal. And he just kind of wanted one last night to, have a drink with his friends. So yeah, that's the story. And we raised, so far we've raised $2,700. And we're still not at our goal just yet, but we got to make the short 2 weekends ago. And so it's all filmed and ready. We released a teaser on our Instagram, and it's doing good. It's got a lot of love. We've had a lot of support. It's been really amazing to see, especially from, fellow cancer survivors and, people that I met through Camp Sam or the hospital or what have you. It's been really, really lovely to see.
Yeah, that's amazing, and such a story that's so real, I think, for a lot of cancer survivors, and a fear, especially now, like when I go on the internet and I see, oh, there's plastics in your food, there's all this stuff that's causing cancer, and the cancer rates are going up. It's something that's so real. So how can people help fund for your project now and maybe upcoming projects that you're creating?
Yeah, so you can go to the Instagram, Eric's Last Drop, or you can go to my Instagram, which is just Dalton Causey. I post about it on my Facebook, but in the bio, there will be a link, and in the link, there are links to our GoFundMe, which kind of tells you more about like our mission and the story and everything you kind of need to know before donating. So you can donate through GoFundMe, or you can buy merch. The other link is to our merch website, and buy merch. We have shirts and tote bags, and all of that money goes to us, and we use that towards post-production and submitting to festivals. Like there will be fees and travel fees, obviously, for getting to those festivals. So yeah, and the merch is good quality, comfort colors. You can't go wrong. So yeah.
And so for someone who's, I love movies, but I've never been in the meat of the business per se.
Yeah.
So you make this movie, and then I guess you submit it into these film festivals. They approve. What's that process like, and what do you hope to get out of these film festivals?
Yeah. So the process is like pulling teeth. I guess it's very like slow and kind of boring. Leading up to actually making the movie, because you're just kind of like planning and picking out things like, oh no, that cup isn't right, or oh no, this shirt isn't going to work in the lighting, and you're talking with 16 different people who are doing 16 different jobs, and you have to be the one that tells them yes or no to all of it. And sometimes they get upset with you because you don't like what they're saying, and sometimes they don't, which is better. But yeah, it's just a lot of like directing a lot of people into your vision, and then filming it is like rapid fire. We did it in 2 days, which is pretty quick. And each shoot went from like anywhere from like 8 to I think 8 to 9 hours were what we were working with. So 8 to 9 hours each night, because it takes place at night. And I did that on purpose, because if the sun's out, then it could go down, and like they would know in the background, like, oh, that shot was at 11 o'clock, but this next shot's at 2 o'clock. And I just thought we should just do it at night, because no one can know, and just kind of saves everyone a lot of nerves. So then we send it off to our editor, and our editor is Benton Reed. They work out of Atlanta. Went to school with them, and they're also composing a score for the short right now. So over the course of the month, Benton will be editing it and sending it back to us and saying, like, do you like this? And we'll say no or yes, and just kind of keep going with that until we get it to a place that we like it. And then we'll start submitting it to festivals. So with submitting it to festivals, they'll get the actual short, and then they'll get any like behind the scenes stuff. So like, videos of us behind the scenes, or, pictures, posters. They'll get the script, and then I send them like a personal essay basically about why I made this. And then hopefully that will touch their hearts, and they will, want to show it at their film festival. Right now we have a list of 20 film festivals that we would really like to get into, all over the country. There's one in Canada, there's one in France. So we're kind of going big with it, and because I don't really know how else to do it, other than just try to get the top ones. So yeah, but what I hope to get out of it is, obviously getting into these festivals is already such a big thing. If you get into one and then you'll go, the short will be showed. Sometimes I think there's Q&As, afterwards. So you'll do a Q&A, people talk to you. But it is a big networking thing as well. So you'll meet other people in the industry, whether they're, super high up people or people that are on the same plane as you. But it is a big networking thing. And there's the possibility that someone will buy it. So a movie company, a film company, or someone else might want to purchase the rights to it, or they might want to give you the money to make it into a full-length feature that would be, in the movie theaters or on a streaming like Netflix, Hulu, one of those things. So that's kind of like the holy grail, is that someone would come up and tell you that they want to help you make your short film into a feature. And if they do that, I'll be honest, I don't really know what the full length version of Eric's Last Drop looks like, because it is I didn't want to make something that I thought could be better. I wanted to make something that could be the best in what it is, like, it doesn't really need to be any longer than 20 minutes to me. But, I have other ideas about, a feature for a movie about cancer. But with Eric's Last Drop specifically, I don't really know. But still, it would be amazing if someone liked it so much that they wanted to give us some money for it. So, yeah.
That really is amazing. I wish you the best. I know that somebody will be able to see the value, especially if somebody's been affected by cancer, just because it'll not only touch the heartstrings, but it's also something that's, at least for me, it's a piece of art that's extremely relatable. And I think for a lot of people, it's extremely relatable. And I feel like that's what some of the best art is. It's stuff that you can listen to, watch, or see, and say, "Oh, that touched my heartstrings. I feel that." So,
and I think a lot of people will also be able to relate to the other characters in the short. So not just Eric, but there's his girlfriend, and he has a best friend, and then another friend. So his core group of friends, really, you get to watch them, not really know what's going on with him, and like, why is he acting this way? And then once they find out, the whole world comes crashing down. And you get to see that look on their faces of when he tells them. And that's a moment, I think, that if you can't relate to Eric, then you can relate to the other three, because either someone who has had cancer, unfortunately, or you've experienced something like this. I still think in making something extremely specific, you will still be able to reach a wider audience. Whereas if we just said like, you know, Eric, he's sick, or, you know, it's, you know, or if we never found out what is wrong with him, like people might relate to some things about it, but you have to really get specific for someone to relate. So yeah.
And it's funny you mentioned that, because that's part of what we're trying to do on this podcast is create a community of not just cancer survivors or people going through cancers, but of people who've been around cancer, fathers, mothers, sisters, daughters, kids, friends, family, doctors. All, I mean, there's so many people who are affected in certain ways, and their perspectives are so different. Like I wouldn't, right now, I don't know what it's like to have a child with
Right.
cancer, and I can't imagine what it's like, but I'm excited to learn what it's like. And seeing all these people's perspectives, it's everybody has a different takeaway. So with that being said, one of my last questions is, what did cancer teach you looking back on it, and what have you carried in your life from cancer?
Mhm. I think, and it goes a lot into like what we made this short for, which is the same reason why you're making this podcast, was, um, my time with cancer, that what I remember of it, I remember being like the class clown of the 8th floor. Like I remember, kind of having a good time. That's all that I remember, thankfully, are the, good things that happened and the funny moments. And I really didn't realize how serious it was until, we got to camp, or like, I would see my mom crying, or, going to a Relay for Life or something like that, and seeing like how it affects the people that care about you. And like the people that, the moms, the dads, the brothers and grandparents and friends. Um, and That's really what the short's about, is how it affects his friends, and what that means. And that's why he's hiding it, because he doesn't want to do this to them. He doesn't want to make someone else go through it. So I think like what it's taught me is that, just trying to be like the best friend, the best son, the best grandson that I can be, because, if it ever did come back, I would hate for the last memory that someone had of me to be sour, or to be upsetting in any way. And there's been many times over the past forever that I've been a bad friend, and I've been a bad boyfriend, or bad son, or bad grandson. And I think now that I've grown up, I've realized that, it could all go away in a second. And so just knowing that there are kids out there, people out there with cancer who are struggling so hard, that have it way worse than you, that every moment, every bad day that I have could be a million times worse in a second. Just, treating every moment, every person with kindness and gentleness, humility. That's humility, I'd say, like in one word, I guess, is what it has taught me.
That's all extremely powerful. You're learning that the intention behind everything you do, it might be your last. It's not taking life for granted. It's extremely powerful. I really appreciate you sharing. And I guess I have one more question for people listening. How can they watch Eric's Last Drop?
Right. So we're going to send a link to all of the people that donated, so that they can watch it early, on their TV screen or their laptop or their phone. I would say watch it on the biggest screen possible, because it looks great. But after it goes to the festivals, then we can do like a wide release on YouTube or Vimeo. But we plan to do a showing in Alabama at least. So I don't know if that's going to be, I'd like for it to be in Birmingham, just because it's kind of like a central place. And obviously a lot of people that we know, with Sam especially, and Children's, are there and can come. But yeah, so I don't really have a full answer for that just yet, but eventually the answer will be YouTube and a showing in Birmingham.
Awesome. Well, certainly count me in for that showing.
Well,
I definitely want to go.
you can
Well,
leave
thank
Q&A.
awesome, awesome. We'll have the whole crew a little reunion going
Sounds
on in
good.
Birmingham.
For sure.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, Dalton, thank you so much for joining and being
Thank you.
vulnerable, sharing your story, sharing where you are in life, and then also what you learned from cancer. Some very important things for people going through cancer, going through whatever cancer is in their life, whether
Mhm.
it's uh, a roadblock that makes things difficult, another disease, relationship. There are a lot of different things that people go through. And I think people who've had cancer just have a little bit of a different perspective that can help others. So I'm extremely grateful for you coming on the show.
Yeah, of course. Anytime.
Awesome. Well, thank you everybody for listening.
Thank you.